I had as a child. And I was able to, immediately, I was able to, with that understanding, I was able to basically have all the occlusion of all those things kind of drop. And I was able to bring that restoration, be restored to that relationship. And then in the doctor's opinion, I also found out in the doctor's opinion that it was an allergy and I just needed to get the alcohol out of my body and not put it back in. I would get rid of the cravings and the mental obsession would subside. So then after that, I was told about some meetings in Jacksonville, and I went to those meetings, and somebody told me about a lady that would sponsor me, and I was getting ready to go on a business trip for 6 weeks, and I had this intuition that I was not going to come back from that business trip, and that's one way that God's hand was in my life. But a month prior to this, God's hand was in my life prior to this, and I didn't know any of this, but I had been assigned a sober mentor at work, and I didn't know she was sober, but God had arranged that for me, and so I had been working with this mentor for 2 times a week for didn't know she was sober, and she didn't know I had a drinking problem because it was work, right? So, but anyway, so just to lay that foundation, so I had a relationship with a sober person at work. So I went on this business, before I left for the business trip, I had met this sponsor, and she had taken me to all kinds of different meetings, speaker meetings, book meetings, step meetings. And so by the time I left, I was ready to pray the 3rd step prayer. And so I left on that business trip, step 1, 2, and 3 under my belt. And I was willing to do whatever it took to stay sober on that trip. So I left on a Wednesday. My next meeting with my mentor was on that Thursday. And so she could tell something was different in my voice. I wasn't hungover. And so she said, what's different? And I told her that I had quit drinking and I was at this business trip and I was a little, and I had to do bourbon tastings and wine tastings and I had to entertain people. And they really expected me to kind of be the life of the party, dance on the bar and keep them out till 2 o'clock. And I knew I was not going to be able to do that. And I was nervous about that. And I asked her if she had any tips. She goes, hey, I've been sober for 15 years. And it was, of course, God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. So she gave me all kinds of tips. And then, said, call me if you get to a jam, I can give you some ideas. And she told me specifically how to act on the sales floor because she knew I was a control freak. So, and helped me with the surrender and had told me, you're used to doing this from a control perspective. I want you to do this. So, she was a work mentor telling me how to be sober. And so it's just God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. So that's just God's hand in my life. And so that it helped me surrender. So that was step 3. So I got home, and after a while I did step 4, and that's make a searching and moral inventory of ourselves. And so there are instructions in the book, and I was determined I would not cut corners, but I'm a drunk, right? So I cut corners. And so I kept turning the cut corners ones, incomplete ones or soft-sided ones into my sponsor. And she kept sending me back, no, go do a complete one the way it says in the book. And so finally I did it on the 3rd iteration. I got a complete inventory as described in the book. And when we did step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, my sponsor knew my flair for the dramatic. And so she had me meet in a diner where we had been before, and I had cried in the diner a lot. And so she had me review my 4th step and just handed me Kleenex or napkins, really, as I cried, because she didn't want me to go into a lot of drama, which I could do in a private place. So she's wise, sponsors are wise. And so, after I had done that and gotten all my tears out and done that, she said, let's flip the script a little bit and let's look at your part in some of these things. And then let's look at the patterns here. So I got to look at my fourth step with a completely different lens and got to see some patterns and some character defects. So that leads us to step 6 in willingness, where we read entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So and part of that is kind of 5B. You have to look back at all your 5 steps, develop, and make sure you've done a good job. And is your foundation secure? Are your sides secure? They talk about the arch, and is the keystone secure? And so I was yes, they were. And I hadn't filtered anything out. And I was really ready for change. And so that leads us to step 7, was I humbly asked him to remove these shortcomings. I was ready to change. And now I needed to get these things out of my life, and I was ready to respond and not react. I was ready to choose courage instead of fear. I was ready to choose the antithesis of all my character defects. And so I realized this was God's work and not mine. And I couldn't continue driving the bus, or I wasn't going to change. So that leads us to step 8. We made a list of all the people we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. That's change, amends. So I make the list. I start at my 4th step, but I've changed. So I have eyes to see where I may have hurt other people. So the list is a little longer than my 4th step. So then that leads me to the 9th step. I have to take responsibility. I hurt these people face to face. I have to take amends to them face to face. I can't text, hey Brenda, sorry I ditched you at the party and left you with the bar bill. I can't do that because I hurt them face to face. So I need to make direct amends. So we sit down and we look at the list, we sort the list. These are the ones I have to make immediately, these are the ones I have to make in the future, and these are the nevers. And so, and then we discuss what we're gonna do with those things. And God edits that list. I think you guys remember I had a never, and then I met her on a plane 8 days later, and I sat with her for 4 hours, right? And she just picked up a white chip. So that one is, you just have to be prepared for God to do what those things are. So now we've cleaned up all of our past, and now we have to figure out how to live our daily lives. And that led us to step 10 with our inventories. I had 4 different inventories, and that was the spot check where I do it immediately. I do the end of the day inventory. I do kind of the monthly inventory with my sponsor, and then I do an annual inventory. So that kind of keeps me clean and keeps my sidewalk clean. So now I'm to step 11 today, and that's awareness. And this is where we have our conscious contact. That's an important part of our growing our spiritual muscles and our spiritual awareness and growing. Because if we're not growing, we're going. And so this is done, awareness is sought, we're seeking through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. So before I was sober, I would watch my brother Charlie. I think you all heard he was sober for 5 years before. And we would go to the beach house together, and he would have, he would set up this little card table, he would work there. But in the morning, he would get out his big book, and he would get out his daily reflections, and he would get out the 24 hours a day book, and he'd make a cup of coffee, and he would be so quiet and so peaceful. And he'd watch, then he'd do his readings, and then he'd turn around and he'd watch the sunrise. And I was so jealous of that because it was so serene and so peaceful, And I'm up, what am I gonna do? Where's the screwdriver? I gotta fix the screen in the door. I gotta go do this. Where's the Bloody Marys? I gotta make those. So I'm off and running. But he was so peaceful, we would tiptoe around him so not to disturb him, And, but I was so jealous of that. So prayers, when we talk to God, and I collected these prayers along the way of my sobriety, and I'll share a couple of them with you. And I keep them on my phone, just because when I'm upset, I can't remember them. So I keep them in notes, and so I can just on my phone just type in prayer, and they will all come up, and so I can read through them if I'm really upset. And then I also have an app called Everything AA, and that has all the step prayers, and then it has a lot of the common AA prayers. So I don't know about y'all, but when I'm upset, these prayers, I can remember them, but sometimes as I get a little older, I get a little fuzzy on things. So I just have them somewhere so I can read them if I need to. The first one, when I first got sober, y'all, I hadn't prayed for 30 years. My God had been occluded. And so I didn't have a relationship. So my prayers were really, please, God, don't let that be a cop behind me, right? And then, please don't let me have a hangover this bad again. So, I mean, it was really those kind of prayers. So I wasn't in the skill of praying. And so my Claire told, I was the Lord's Prayer, I would hear that in an AA meeting, and it was like, that was kind of a gimme because I'd been mumbling that in church for a long time. But she gave me, or told me to go get this book called Help, Thanks, and Wow by Anne Lamott. And those were 3 prayers that she wanted me to learn, and she thought I could memorize those. And and they were to get me in the habit of praying every day. And so help was anytime I needed help, whether I was in a traffic jam, or I was in a family situation where I didn't feel comfortable, or I was in a work situation and I just needed help. Shit, that's all you gotta say, it's just help. That's it, that's the end of your prayer, that's it, just say help. And do it as many times throughout the day as you need. God understands you're learning, you got training wheels on, that's all you gotta say. And then thanks is when something has happened to you and you feel gratitude and you feel grateful, just say thanks. He gets that. He'll be grateful that you did that, and he's happy that you're thinking of him and you're thanking him. That's enough. And then wow. This was the one that I really was a whole new prayer for me. I had never thought to say wow. And so this was when I would see a bird soar through the sky, or I would see the sun glisten on the river, or I would see dew on a leaf, or a spider web with the dew on it, or a mother look at a baby. This was a whole new category of things that I've never looked at and appreciated. So this is a whole new category of me reaching out to God and saying, wow. And so I was so excited to be able to look for things to say, wow. And so it was a new way for me to learn how to pray. And I was so excited and grateful for that. So I was there's a dictators meeting at ALCO at noon on Friday, and that was one of my great meetings I love to go to. And I was so excited, and dictators, don't you want to go to something like that? And but there were there's this big round table, and it's all these men that have a zillion years of sobriety. There's probably 1,000 years of sobriety at that table. But Claire told me to stick with the winners and find sobriety. So that was a great meeting for me to go to. And Ben Weatherby was there, and I was so excited about this book and these prayers. And so I was telling him, Ben, I got to tell you about this. He goes, oh, baby, I've got something for you. Next week, I'm going to bring it to you. So he brought me back this yellow pamphlet called The Lord's Prayer. He goes, read it and talk to me about it next week. Well, I told you I had been mumbling the Lord's Prayer. And so Jesus is the author of that. I should not have been mumbling that, right? I should have been paying a little bit more attention to that. So, and I didn't know that he was the author of that. So I learned that, and I thought it was like the Catholic diocese or something. So I learned that. And so I am going to share with you what I learned about the Lord's Prayer. Now, I am not a theologian. I am a drunk that had an eye-opening about the prayer that I had been mumbling for 55 years. So I'm just going to run through the Lord's Prayer. So our Father, I just thought it was a salutation, but it's not. It puts us in relationship to God. So it's that means we're all related. And Father puts us in relationship to him, that he's our Father, and that we're all one as a family. So it does 3 things. It puts us in relationship to Father, it puts us in relationship to each other, and then it puts me in specific relationship to him. And so and then when you think about what a father is, some of us have had good relationships with fathers and bad relationships with father, but generally, fathers are supposed to be providers, and they're supposed to be nurturing, and they're supposed to be teachers, and they're supposed to be generally good. So when I look at that, just those two words, it says a whole lot to me. And I had just thought it was a salutation, and it didn't mean much. So I meditated just on those two words for about a month because it was so meaningful. And I just couldn't believe how those two words addressed civilization and addressed me spiritually. So that was that. Then, which art in heaven, clearly put God on one dimension and us in another. And we needed to seek that dimension and him in that dimension through prayer. And he in that he manifests things and circumstances and people and places and things. And I seek those things and those manifestations through prayer. So again, that was another mind blower. I just couldn't believe that. Hallowed be thy name. I thought that meant holy, just like holy is your name. But when you look at what hallowed means, it's like the supreme verb of being holy and hallowed. It's a verb. It's you being the most supreme thing that you can be. We hallow him. It's not just to be holy. It's what we do to him and make him. So all of our actions hallow his name. So we do everything in our life hallow him. So that was so mind-blowing to me that all my actions hallow him. And it's not just you're a holy dude, because that's what I kind of thought it meant. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And God has a different experience for each of us. So each of us bring a different part of heaven on earth. So you might be a chicken farmer, I might be a lawyer, I might be an IBM salesperson, but we all have a different role on earth. And when we do those things according to God's divine plan, doors open, we make people happy around us, we bring joy to people, and we bring joy, and we're joyful. So we're bringing heaven on earth. And we have an opportunity to exercise our own will. And then things don't go so good. So our job, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. If I do my job and stay in God's will, I'm bringing a little piece of heaven on earth. And I can do that and stay in his lane and stay in his will. Everybody's happy around me. I'm happy. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Give us this day our daily bread. This is such an IBM, an AA principle. Hey, I've got blue blood, I'm not gonna lie. Give us this day our daily bread. It's such an AA principle. We're just supposed to live in the day, not rest on our laurels. So we ask that all of our needs are met just for today. And this doesn't mean food. This means everything, our soul nourishment and all of our physical things. So when we ask for that, we are acknowledging that God is the source of everything, not our 401ks, not our jobs, not our husbands. God is that source. So when we're acknowledging above all the physical things that we see, that it's above that, God is the source. We can, if we lose our jobs or we lose our husbands, any of those things, we're okay with the absence of the physical thing because we're ultimately trusting in God, because he's the ultimate provider. And the sources will come and go, and we know that God will provide for us. So give us this day our daily bread. It's not Wonder Bread, folks. It's really not. So forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. This is a really clever part of the prayer because it's the fourth step and the eighth prayer and the ninth step. So it's it's saying to the level that I forgive those that sin against me, God will forgive me. So if I hold a resentment, I'm not forgiven all the way. So I have to look at how I judge and forgive other people. My side of the sidewalk has to be clean, or I'm going to still be in pain. So I have to be very, very careful on how I forgive people, or I'm going to remain in pain. So it's so powerful. I did not realize that he put this little jab in here, like you have to be clean on your side of the sidewalk with other people or you're going to remain in pain. So when I read that, it was like, oh my gosh, the AA is so spot on. It's got all of these things in here, and we say it all the time. And so, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So this is not that God leads us around and tempts us with the 7 deadlies. It's not that. But we're going to wander into that area anyway, just because we're who we are. And so God will say, you're going to tempt us, but iron sharpens iron. We're diamonds under pressure, and pressure makes us diamonds. So what we're asking for is, I'm going to have temptations. Let me not sin. Let me come through those temptations pure, and let me come out of this. And so, and deliver me from what evil might come. If I do fail, deliver me from that evil. Keep me holy, keep me pure. Thine is the kingdom and the power of the glory forever and ever. This is acknowledging that he runs all creation, and we're here to do his bidding. And that's another great principle. It's amazing. And we're supposed to, in the power and the glory forever and ever. And that's explaining that we're sharing his experience, strength, and hope, kind of what I'm doing here. And so we're to do that because we're giving him power and glory forever and ever. So we're ascribing that it's his kingdom, and we're to give him glory forever and ever. And then, of course, we realize that he changes our lives as we get better. And then we just tell people about those miracles. And as we see a miracle day by day, we tell everybody, did you see that Susie got a new car? Did you see that Betty got our house? So we tell those things all day long. As we get healthier, we're so happy for other people to get healthy. So, we do that by nature. As we get healthier, we're so joyful when other people are happy. And then of course, we end the prayer with amen. And that's so be it, and we're just closing with that prayer and say, so be it. So that was something that just really changed my life. And I was now I never say the Lord's Prayer. I never mumble it anymore. It's the real deal. So I'm going to share another story about a nun that prayed with me. My daughter had broken her arm, and we took her to St. Vincent's. And she, I think we had been sober. I've been sober maybe 6 years. My husband had survived cancer, so I did a lot of praying for that, both kidney cancer and bladder cancer. And so we were at St. Vincent's, and I was comfortable in the emergency room and in that hospital. So you hate to be comfortable in a hospital, but when you have a cancer survivor, you are comfortable in a hospital. But anyway, so Stephanie was there waiting for the doctor, and this little nun came in, and she had the whole deal on and her rosary, and she goes, "Can I pray for you?" And you never say no. And so we're Methodists, but of course, it's like, please. And have a. And so she comes in, and I'm 6 years sober. I pray a lot, so I'm good at it. And she comes in, and this lady says a prayer. It's the way angels pray. It was absolutely Olympic. It was the best prayer I have ever heard. It's the torch that goes to God. It was amazing. And I'm just awestruck. I just have never heard a prayer like that before. And so when she gets finished, amen, 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 it's like, that's the best prayer I've ever heard. You're the best prayer. I mean, I'm a good prayer, but you really know how to pray. She kind of looks at me sort of deadpan, and she goes, "What's kind of my job?" It's like, okay, well, I'm just real, So anyway, but it was just really, it was remarkable. So, I'm thinking now, oh my God, I love these nuns. I want to see nuns. I remember in Rome, I saw all the nuns. It was just amazing. I love nuns. So, and 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, Tom W.'s telling the steps, and he shares this nun's prayer. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to hear this. So here's what he reads. Lord, thou knowest better than I know myself that I am grown older and will someday be old. Keep me from the fatal habit of thinking that I must say something on every subject and on every occasion. Release me from craving to straighten out everybody's affairs. Make me thoughtful, but not mean. Help me, helpful but not bossy. With my vast store of wisdom, it seems a pity not to use it all. But thou knowest, Lord, that I want a few friends at the end. Keep my mind free from the recital of endless details. Give me wings to get to the point. Seal my lips on my aches and pains. They are increasing, and love of rehearsing them is becoming sweeter as the years go by. I dare not ask for grace enough to enjoy the tales of others' pains, but help me to endure them with patience. I dare not ask for improved memory, but for a growing humility and a lessening cocksuredness when my memory seems to clash with the memories of others. Teach me the glorious lesson that occasionally I may be mistaken. Keep me reasonably sweet. I do not want to be a saint. Some of them are so hard to live with. But a sour old person is one of the crowning works of the devil. Give me the ability to see good things in unexpected places and talents in unexpected people. And give me, Lord, the grace to tell them so. So it's a beautiful, beautiful prayer. And thank you, Tom, for sharing with me. And to the dichotomy of those two prayers. And this is such a wise prayer too, but with humor. And I love that God uses those kind of prayers. My prayers aren't usually funny, but God does have a sense of humor, and I love that. So with the prayers, morning and evening, and then my little repertoire of prayers, I usually can get myself out of a jam or, kind of settle myself down with a prayer. And then meditation comes in. And that's where I let God talk to me. And that's where my soul grows. And that's where my soul settles. And that's where my inspiration and creativity comes. That's where I get the crazy idea of doing something, or I'll know that I'm supposed to do something for someone. And it's an idea that sparks out of nothing. And that's where I get my daily instructions. And that's where I get that divine inspiration. So my experience with meditation is has been a journey. It's been 10 years in working. It's been a 10-year process. So the first time Claire was taught yoga, my best sponsor, she was a yoga instructor. And so, she started trying to teach, let's do yoga and let's have some, after. And she finally gave up. She says, trying to teach you is like trying to teach a chimp. I mean, it's just, you are going to have to figure this one out on your own. And, because she would be at the end and we'd be trying to do the squat and my feet are going like this, and she'd hold them and then my arms are going like this, and she's like, this is just, it's just not worth the gas coming out here to see you, so it's just like, I got the insight timer and, tried it, for 1 minute and tried it for 5 minutes, these are the silent meditations. And then, so finally I was going to Atlanta, she goes, there's an 8111 group that has a meditation meeting. Why don't you try that? So I go to this 8111 group. One of my best friends lives there, Cheryl. And so I said, can we go to this meeting together? So, it's 6 o'clock in the morning and it's foggy outside and they have this big plate glass window and everybody's got their shoes off and it's quiet and 15 minutes starts. It's felt like 3 weeks. It was awful. I mean, awful. It was absolutely the longest time in my entire life. I'm like, screw the 11-step meditation. I'm just not going to do it. Progress, not perfection. That's for the advanced people, not for me. And so I was like, it was awful. It was just awful. So, I told Claire I failed that. And, well, just wanted to. And So then maybe 2 weeks later, I was in New York and I went to the Mustard Seed Club. I just loved that meeting, the Mustard Seed meeting. And so I needed an early meeting and they had a 6 o'clock meeting in the morning. And so usually they have one in front of the fireplace. And then this time they had one in the back room in front of a long meeting table. And so I got there at like 5:55 and I had to go to the back of the room and was like by the back wall. And I did not know it was a meditation. And so so I'm sitting there and at 6 o'clock and the lights go out. I couldn't bolt because I was in the back of the room. I didn't know the layout of the room. And so they turn on this little electric candle, sit it in the middle of the table, and I'm like, and so this guy starts this very gentle, worded, guided meditation. Breathe in, breathe out, release your feet. And so I was like, okay, I might as well get into the program, So I was listening, and my feet release, my ankles release, my calves release, knees release. No, can't do that. Thighs release. Hips release. That's how we're going. Okay, so anyway, we get up to the head, and then we're thinking about the sea and the ocean. Then we're quiet for 5 minutes. Then they turn the lights on. I'm like, I was ready. I was getting into this. I liked this. So, and then we just had a regular meeting. And so it was like, okay, I experienced my first meditation, and I really liked it, And so then I had the insight timer, and I tried guided meditation, and I could do that for 2 minutes, and then 5 minutes. And then I tried, all kinds of different meditation types. I tried, meditation with beats. I tried meditation, with sounds. And then I tried meditation with guided meditations I like a lot. Walking meditations, walking on those little circles, And I just tried all kinds of meditations. I tried to do how long could I go? And, the main thing was that I could relax enough and hear and be contacted. And that was the most important thing, that I could get that divine inspiration and that I could feel that spark. And once I understood that that was the point of the whole thing, I was like, okay, I get it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing here. And so it became, I became unsettled if I didn't do that. And so I know that if I don't do, my sponsor meditates twice a day. I'm not that advanced. But I do meditate, and I know that when I don't, I am unsettled and I'm not balanced. And so I know that I can just focus on my breath, 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. And I can settle. Just 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. And I can get to where I need to be. And that has taken, 10 years to get to that place where I can just get into the zone that simply. And that's the conscious contact that we're supposed to be able to have. And to be able to be that close to our higher power. And to be able to be that contact and that close to our higher power that we can just contact. And so when we're trying to do these things, it takes experimentation, because God touches us all in different ways. And so it's all about that, how we touch other people and how He touches us. Let's see. I have a short meditation on the St. Francis prayer that 3 minutes I'd like to do for us as I end this. So I'm going to see if I can get the technology to work. So we'll see. Oh. These work. I had it all set up. Let's for some reason, of course, this technology does. So let me try it the other way. Okay, there it goes. Okay, 3 minutes, St. Francis prayer. Deep breath in, deep breath out.
Step 1. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. This next meditation is meditating on the 11th step prayer, also known as the St. Francis prayer. What you can do is with each line of the prayer, circulate and ruminate in your mind what the words mean to you. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace. Hatred, may I bring love. Where there is wrong, may I bring the spirit of forgiveness. That where there is discord, may I bring harmony. That where there is error, may I bring truth. That where there is doubt, may I bring light. That where there is despair, may I bring hope. That where there are shadows, may I bring light. That where there is darkness, may I bring joy. Grant that I may seek to comfort and be comforted. To understand, then to be understood. To love and to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen.
Okay. So, thank you. Next week is step 12. And I hope you all enjoyed this step. And I will talk to you all next week.